When I was a kid, there was this bowling alley slash arcade a little bit upstate. It had 3 arcade cabinets: Big Buck Hunter Pro, House of the Dead 2, and Tekken 3. And every couple of weeks, I'd grab my quarters, ride on up north, and play the crap out of House of the Dead 2, because that game was tight.
To protect the life cycle.
Eventually I worked up the courage to try out that other weird-looking arcade game. I played one round and it absolutely blew my mind. It was 2006 and this game fucked hard. I picked Eddie Gordo because I liked doing this, and oh my god, everything from the announcer, the characters, the stages,
and the graphics.
I was totally hooked. I'd play arcade mode over and over and get trashed by Ogre every single time. But I left with a determination to become a Tekken champion.
This dude's doing strings! Wow.
And mind you, I was playing alone. I was the only person on these machines. In fact, I'm pretty sure nobody in a 36-mile radius even knew what Tekken was. But I was convinced that I could become a god of Tekken. The Tekken God Omega. And then I went home and just played a bunch of Soul Calibur 2, because it had Link in it, and Taki, and Keelik, and what I'm trying to say is, I love fighting games. And I want to talk about why. Yo, Barkeep, can you top me off here? What am I animating you for? Don't worry, he's not real.
The first time I would actually play a fighting game was in 2010. I picked up Street Fighter 4 when I was like 15, and I picked it up, I played it for a week. I remember getting so angry I cried, because I just got hit by like A-ball stuff, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I had like a very frail ego.
There's a lot to be said about fighting games and their difficulty. I think it's one of the most rewarding, but also most off-putting elements. There's a lot of truth to that, but there's also plenty of misconceptions. A lot of people will tell you that fighting games are hard because you gotta do a lot of big motion inputs just to play the game. And yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think most people watching this could probably learn to throw a quarter circle in a matter of minutes. Execution barriers are there, but with your choice of character and game, it's basically only as hard as you want to make it. There are hard fighting games out there, but not everyone is an insurmountable challenge only meant for lab monsters. No, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle for getting into fighting games is personal. When you lose in a game of League of Legends or Rainbow Six, you could lose for any number of reasons. Your teammate sucked, maybe you got team killed for being a girl, maybe your team wasn't able to coordinate well enough to make a solid push. But in fighting games, there's only really one reason you lose. You got bodied. You got outplayed. Whether you dropped your combo or you were unfamiliar with your matchup, your loss was all on you, no matter what game it is, dive kick or Guilty Gear. Your opponent is playing the same game you are, and that can sting. It's hard to grapple with the fact that you just didn't have the skills to beat that opponent. But the important word here is didn't, and that's what I think makes fighting games so rewarding. You can get better.
Holy shit!
And there's one other genre that gives me the same kind of feeling. Some of you guys might be onto me here. It's roguelikes. In roguelikes, you have to fight your way up from the beginning to the end by the skin of your teeth. You might be given a crummy matchup, power-up, but by the end of it, the skill set you play off of isn't whether or not Hot Boy Dionysus gives you that special upgrade. It's about playing with the hand that you're dealt, assessing risk, and winning your game. And when you beat Daddy or Mommy, it's not just rewarding because you won, it's rewarding because you're able to deal with things that you weren't able to when you started. What the hell?! There's something innately satisfying about learning a matchup from experience, watching your replays, and becoming tangibly better at a game than you were yesterday, in a way that you can really feel. Really makes you feel like Batman.
Every time you play a fighting game, it's something new. It's never going to be the same experience. You're always going to be trying something new. Your opponent's going to try something new, or you're going to have picked up a new skill in the interim between your sessions. It's never gets old to play fighting games. The only real reason I stopped playing fighting games is when I no longer have anyone to play with.
If there's one thing I've heard from no shortage of people, it's that playing fighting games kind of feels like being the protagonist of your own shonen anime. Hear me out. You start out as a scrappy fighter with passion to improve and a desire to overcome your limits. You put in hours of training to master new techniques and gradually participate in meaningful fights and even tournaments. And that isn't a story that the game tells you. That's not the struggle of some character you play as. That's the story of you. and it genuinely makes you feel like Spider-Man.
When he leaps off of rooftops and
Fighting games allow you a type of self-expression that just isn't often seen in other games, and that fight to carve out your own path, at least for me, never gets boring. It's that visceral satisfaction that I feel when I master something, whether it's learning to sidestep a move in Tekken or cooking chicken without getting salmonella and dying.
Yes! Gotta put him away. No! Oh my god! Yes!
I love playing fighting games because the freaking sick anime combos. I love it when you win neutral and your freaking prize for it is you can get to style on your opponent and be like, yo, check this out. You know, that way afterwards your opponent's like, damn, you got me. But it was actually pretty sick. I'm not too angry about it. So I'd say cool anime combos. That's why I like fighters.
It's one thing to play Dynasty Warriors or Senran Kagura and do all these weird flashy moves and combos, but it's all the more satisfying when you know how much work it took for you to do them, when they're happening because you worked for them. And with that improvement comes an increased attachment to the person on screen playing your combos out. Over time, the character you choose becomes a sort of proxy for your hard work. Many players form their entire fighting game identities around which characters they play.
With no ties. He's not gonna cut no corners. He's out here on the stream using the stream time. He wants the characters he wants to see, and that, my friends, was Jack from Power Rangers SPD.
That feeling of growing alongside your character is such a personal experience. It's why a lot of times when people ask, which character should I pick, the most common answer is, well, pick whoever you think is cool.
I tried Tekken 6 on an emulator, and I found out that Lily exists, and I really loved her move lists and character and how she had a motive to save her father's company. And I don't know, I like this preppy rich girl that also knows how to fight. I think this is a misconception about Tekken and fighting games in general, is that you have to pick a strong character to win, but you know, there's a very small percentage of players that play tournaments at a high level, so unless you're one of those players, it really doesn't matter if your character is weak or strong, because you and me or other players at our level, we don't have the skill nor the knowledge to make use of our characters to their fullest potential.
Learning new characters is so satisfying, and being able to make strategic decisions before you've even started fighting is just the coolest thing.
Sun Tzu said that. And I'd say he knows a little more about fighting games than you do, pal, because he invented it.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, I kinda like feeling like a green-haired anime character in a training montage. I like getting absolutely dominated in a tournament and having my opponent say, hey dude, good neutral. That feeling of accomplishment just isn't something most other types of games can deliver. And the best part, you don't have to do it alone.
I think I've enjoyed getting into every fighting game community that I've tried to get into. Most people are super willing to show you how stuff works. They're just kind of excited to have a new person to show around. Like I tried with Skullgirls, Marvel, Lethal League was a big one. People were super willing to show me how that game worked. So overall, like 95% positive experience.
In fighting games, I feel like if I was to play against a top 100 player, it's like, yeah, I might get destroyed, but there's a lot that you can learn from that experience. There's so much that you can learn from that. And then you can ask someone a question, and because it takes so much understanding to get to any level of experience, people are very receptive, and people are very fast to want to educate you and want to help you out.
I'd compare my experience getting into the fighting game community to getting into tabletop Dungeons & Dragons. It can be a little bit intimidating, especially when it involves new people, but going into a social setting where you can use all the research you've been spending time on and apply it with other people with that same passion, it's unique and super fulfilling. The thing about fighting games is that they kinda can't exist without a community. The same can be said of any competitive game, but the nature of each game kinda determines the nature of its community. Fighting games are no different. They're games about self-expression through complex mechanics, and yeah, that's what a lot of the fighting game community is built on. Now, I could go over all the famous fighting game moments and how cool they are. Trust me, I'd be more than happy to highlight every Moment 37, LTG versus Viscant, and but let's face it, you've probably already seen those, and the FGC is more than just a few awesome moments split across decades of players. No, it's about you.
No, not me.
No, it's about you.
Yeah, but you.
No, it's about you.
I guess just the competitiveness. It's more of like a test between two people than like characters, and it's always fun to like see all the layers and how the game changes between just one person. Like even though you're the same character, same person, as you continue to develop new strategies, the game will continue to evolve with you.
Fighting games are genuinely one of my favorite ways of spending time with friends, even if they don't really play them often. Seeing how people's personalities come through in the way that they play is always so much fun. And when you find a game that you like, getting your friends in on it or meeting people who play it is a great way to find passion to improve. Some of my fondest memories come from playing a new fighting game in a cramped basement with my friends, or getting my ass kicked in a live tournament. Not because the game itself was so fun, but because I got to play it with people who like what I like. Maybe that's why I've been getting so passionate about fighting games lately. I kinda haven't been able to do those things in a while. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do with this video is demystify fighting games. I've been playing these games my whole life, and I feel like there's this conception that fighting games are, like, insurmountable. It's kinda like music. Like, people say, oh, I listen to everything but rap and country. That's right, I'll say it. Fighting games are the country music of competitive gaming. Yeehaw. But like country or rap, you gotta find the song that works for you. You gotta find your MF Doom or your Skullgirls. You get it. I don't think that fighting games are like endemically harder than any other type of competitive game, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. People always say, I see these players at EVO and I'll never be that good, but I don't really hear that stuff about other types of games. Nobody refuses to pick up CSGO because they'll never be as good as Stewie 2K? I don't know. And I'm glad that people like Donkey are normalizing the idea of just playing fighting games for fun. Sure, you might be bad at them, but hey, I didn't play a first-person shooter or a MOBA until way after I played Street Fighter. That's why I'm so bad at them. But hey, I still have fun. There's a whole world of fighting games out there. Tekken, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, Power Rangers. Who's to say it's not for you? So, come on. You ready to play?
Why do I play fighting games? That is a difficult question. At this point, I can just say they're a lot of fun. I don't think I would have been playing fighting games like 2 years ago.
They started with Tekken 3. I was 6 years old, so this was the early 2000s, and I have older brothers. They were young adults at the time, and they let me play Tekken 3 with them, and we were all mashing together.
Tekken is dope. Tekken is dope, and the best part about watching it is like, I'll be watching it, I think something is cool, and then like, I'll check Twitter, and Speed Kicks is like, this game's so dumb. I'm like, oh my god, this is great.
I'll tell you, I'm not an RTS guy. I'm not a puzzle guy. My brain not too big, but there's a lot of quick little actions you can do, and so many different options you can choose, and a lot of fighters, which it gives it infinite replayability with so many different things that can happen.
I have unfinished business. I haven't won Evo yet. But then also, I just like the genre a lot. And I didn't realize like how engaging fighting games are. Like there's some like single player game. I have a couple of games down here that I was playing, but I just didn't finish. Like fighting games, they're actually too engaging.
Fighting games are quite diverse in the community that it kind of brings together, which is really good, especially when you come from a very isolated demographic. If the fighting game wasn't diverse like it was, I wouldn't be a shitbag, but I wouldn't have really gained that perspective. And so I think that that's really important.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I know this is a pretty big change in content, but I just want to say, thanks for sticking with me, being patient, all that stuff. I'm not gonna stop here. I want to make more videos like this, but, I want to make them faster and better, so stay tuned. I want to take a second to thank my epic and based tier patrons. Yeah, that's really what they're called. So thank you Kaylin Watson, Fenrir Evergreen, Dude, Ozymandias, Aaron, and Mars_7 for the support. You guys are awesome. Not just them, but you all collectively, everyone, you're all awesome. I think this is why I didn't speak in my whole video. Also, you guys can check out my merch store. The link to that's in the description. I've got 3 new items there, one of which is a limited edition, so that'll be available for about 2 weeks after the release of this video. So that's it. Don't worry, I won't keep you guys. I'm sure you're busy. I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that is. Bye-bye.